The Taliban has urged unity ahead of the First Friday prayers since they seized power in Afghanistan. They've urged imams to persuade people not to leave the country. More than 18,000 have flown out of Kabul since the Taliban took over. Chaotic scenes like these continue. Crowds have been attacked by militants with sticks and rifle butts, leaving about a dozen dead. The fighters are said to be searching, or screening rather, people making their way to the airport. At the same time, fears are growing that the Taliban will seek revenge on opponents, despite presenting a more moderate face to the world. A UN intelligence report says the insurgents are going door to door, searching for people that have worked with US and NATO forces.
UNHCR remains concerned about the risk of human rights violations against civilians in this evolving context, including for women and girls. As of today, those who may be in danger have no way out. UNHCR is calling on countries neighbouring Afghanistan to keep their borders open in light of the evolving crisis in Afghanistan.
Afghan journalist Fazil Kazizai joins us live from Kabul for more on this. Fazil, what's been the scene at mosques across Kabul today?
Life was normal today in Kabul as before. It was today's Friday, and it was the first Friday prayer in the new era. Friday prayer, as you know, is like a political prayer in Islam. As I went out to one of the grand mosques in Kabul, people were happy. The scholar or the imam of the mosque was preaching and talking about the grand victory, the clear victory. They were mentioning or giving a reference from Quran and also from the Prophet Muhammad that a clear victory was granted to him through Quran, and they were happy. The prayers were happy. They were shouting slogans of Allahu Akbar, God is greatest, and also they were shouting slogans in the support of a Sharia regime and about the enforcement of Islam all over the country and in all affairs. So I was waiting to receive the Taliban governor for Kabul to this mosque, but unfortunately he didn't did the prayer in the mosque where I was. But the normal life was okay, and people were out for business, for work, as before.
Well, while there is a sort of sense of normalcy, there at the same time there is a sense of fear as well that opponents are already being targeted. Is that right?
Unfortunately, the reports which are out, I think they are not true. There is a general forgiveness for everyone. We see and we have the reports that when the Taliban arrested Qaisari, a very big notorious warlord in the north of the country, in Mazar-e-Sharif city, the Taliban released him back. The notorious warlord Qaisari have killed and murdered over thousands of people, Taliban and other civilians. So he committed too many crimes. But the Taliban arrested him while he was escaping the city and then released him according to the big order of the Taliban leadership of forgiveness. So I think the forgiveness order being, everyone can benefit from it, and Taliban will not, I haven't seen or I don't have any reports that Taliban are chasing door by door those people that they work with US and those people that they fought against them in the past. But yes, there is a commission, an official commission of the Taliban, that they are going to each house of the former official for collecting the governmental vehicles, weapons, and other property, which this is something normal. This is something standard. So if someone worked for the Ministry of Defense or Ministry of Finance or Ministry of Education, and he earned a vehicle, a gun for the security, Kindle or iPad for use, when he's retired or when he's fired, he needs to give back the governmental property. So now the regime has changed, and there is a lots of cars, a lots of vehicles, and a lots of other properties, including guns, are still remain with the former officials. And now an official commission of the Taliban are after them, going to their houses, collecting the stuff, and giving them back documents. Which this is something normal, and this is not the house of civilian, this is not the house of businessmen, and also this is not a search to seek revenge, a search to do illegal stuff. Yes, the Taliban are collecting the governmental properties, but there are a number of reports that people pretending to be Taliban.
Thank you very much, Faisal. We'll have to leave it there. We are out of time. Faisal Kazizai in Kabul, thank you much as always.
U.S. President Joe Biden speaking about the evacuation efforts in Afghanistan in just a few hours' time. Look ahead with Simon Marks now. He joins us live from Washington, D.C. Simon, what can the president say? Anything new to contain the fallout at this point?
Well, I mean, the difficulty that the president faces, Jill, is that when he speaks in a few hours' time here, he's going to be doing so amid what appears to be a rapidly deteriorating situation in Kabul itself, with multiple reports now coming from, in some cases, the families of Americans stuck behind Taliban lines, from the staff members of Congress on Capitol Hill who have been communicating with them, that Americans and other foreign nationals have been harassed, beaten, in the case of a German citizen shot by either Taliban fighters or possibly even the American military in some cases, as they have attempted to get to Kabul airport. So the situation extremely volatile and uncertain, very much not the relative calm that the State Department was claiming here just a few hours ago. We know that the Americans were able to evacuate 5,700 people overnight on 16 separate C-17 planes that took off from Afghanistan, but we don't know how many of those were American citizens as opposed to third country nationals or Afghans who have worked with allied forces over the last 20 years. So President Biden is now dealing with a real bona fide national security crisis that is not only raising substantial difficulties for him here at home if he can't get those Americans out of Afghanistan, but it's also raising enormous complications in his relationships with governments around the world whose own citizens are in Afghanistan. And last night, his own national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, took to American television to disclose that the White House has no idea how many Americans are still in Afghanistan. They simply do not know how many people they need to evacuate, which raises the question, well, how on earth would they know when the operation is complete? There was also a report in the Wall Street Journal that 24 diplomats at the embassy in Kabul sent a cable to Secretary of State Antony Blinken last month, warning him that the Afghan government was going to collapse rapidly, a dissent cable expressing their disagreement with the policy that President Biden was implementing. So he is in the middle of a crisis, and it's absolutely not over yet.
And in the middle of this crisis, the Vice President, the U.S. Vice President, is making her way to Asia with this shadow of the Afghan crisis looming large.
Yeah, and not just with the shadow hanging over her. The White House says that she will be spending time while she is in Asia actively engaged in ongoing conversations that are taking place between the president and members of his national security team about the situation in Afghanistan. So her focus is clearly going to be divided between the meetings that she is due to be having and the need to stay in touch with what is taking place in Kabul and Washington, D.C. And they concede here that she's going to face the same kind of questions that State Department and Pentagon officials have been facing from Asia-Pacific reporters based in Washington, D.C. Only yesterday, the State Department spokesman asked again, how can the people of South Korea, of Japan, of Taiwan and other locations trust Joe Biden when he says that he will make good on his commitments to them when he has pulled the rug out from underneath Afghanistan? The State Department keeps pushing back on that, but the Vice President can expect at a government-to-government level, the White House concedes, similar questions to be asked about where exactly President Biden is going with foreign policy. And that is not where anyone in this conversation thought they were going to be when Vice President Kamala Harris's trip was originally planned.
Yeah, many thanks there. Simon Marks reporting from Washington, D.C.